In honor of today, International Women's Day, I'd like to imagine a world where every woman, each woman, no matter what her background is, no matter where she's from, no matter what her beliefs are, no matter what her style is or her lifestyle is, each woman feels completely empowered to fully be herself.
Welcome to the Blueprint Breakers podcast. What is a blueprint breaker? If you live your life outside the typical traditional lifestyle blueprint, you are a blueprint breaker. We are here to start a conversation, to assemble resources, and to build a community. This podcast is for empowered women in midlife and beyond who are preparing for a powerful next era of life. My name is Amy A. Palmer. I am your host and facilitator for our conversations. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. To stay connected, up to date, and to receive all of our free resources and gifts along the way, join us at community.blueprintbreakers.com. I was thrilled to be asked to present recently at Workday's celebration of International Women's Day. The theme was Inspire Inclusion, and it filled my heart that the event committee recognized that women struggle with inclusion on numerous levels, sometimes determined by how well a woman has or hasn't followed society's expectations. So today, I am sharing with you a broadcast of that session where we celebrate the unique journeys of women who shatter societal norms and forge their own path. So let's break free from the blueprints and inspire each other to build a more inclusive future for all. Now, to see the video replay of this event, check out the Blueprint Breakers YouTube channel.
I imagine a world where differences are celebrated and not silenced. I believe in such a world, and I believe that together we can create that world. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Our journey for the next little under an hour together, we are going to talk about rewriting blueprints. I'm going to share a little bit about my story. You will have a chance to share a little bit about your stories as we go. We're going to take time to celebrate the blueprint breakers out there. And I will share the 5 steps to freedom and inclusion. And before we wrap, I do have a gift and an invitation from me to those of you who are attending here today. So why don't we start in the chat, letting me know, where are you dialing in from? I know we have people spread out all over the place. I'd love to hear some of the cities and places that we're representing. Ohio, Texas, El Paso, Chicago suburbs, Indianapolis, Orange County, California, San Francisco, Long Island, all over the place. So welcome, welcome, welcome on this wonderful Friday afternoon. Let's get started on our journey together. First, let's talk about the blueprint. What is a blueprint? Well, it's something that most, if not all of us, received as little girls. And it was basically a expectation of, here's what you do to be a fully fulfilled, happy woman, girl into womanhood. This is what you need to do to have a full and happy life. And it's something that almost all of us have received in some fashion, either from our family or from society, from school, teachers, etc. I have some pictures here that show this represents a little bit of the blueprint that I was handed and given as I grew up. First, going to school, making sure you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, pursue a career, a successful career of some sort. And then while you're doing that, making sure that you meet a man, you fall in love, you get married, you start to have children, preferably more than one, and you live happily ever after, eventually becoming grandparents. And that's what it takes to be a happy, fulfilled woman for the rest of your life. And that's not even touching on the physical blueprint of what you are supposed to look like on the outside. So these pictures just that these just represent a little bit of the blueprint that I was handed as I was growing up and my surroundings. I'd love to hear in the chat, is there anything, when you think about it, think about the expectations you had given to you as a child, as a young girl, as a teenager, anything else, anything that you can think of that was something that you were supposed to do or should do to be a good, happy, fulfilled woman throughout your life. Just type that into the chat. Any thoughts that you have on elements of your blueprint? Tiffany, yes. Find a Greek boy. Teresa, get married young, have kids. Kay, become a doctor or a lawyer. Yes, yes. Wanting me to learn piano, to give piano lessons. Yes. So a lot of things that we inherited from those around us. Yeah. Be a working mom. Absolutely. Taking care of family, going beyond college, all of it. So you get it. You get what I'm talking about here. Now let's talk about blueprint breakers. Blueprint breakers are those who did not follow every element of the blueprint. And either that was deliberate by choice or by circumstance. I happen to be a blueprint breaker. There are elements of the blueprint that I did not follow, but it was not intentional. I wanted to follow the path. I believed in it. It was ingrained in me. I believed that it was the key to happiness. I believed that the full blueprint is what it meant to be a woman. I believed in it 1000%, but I didn't get to do that. And I'll share a little bit more about that in a little bit. It took a long time for me to get to a healthy point with a lifestyle blueprint. And as a blueprint breaker now, and this has been my journey and my mission these last year and a half, almost 2 years now, these are the 3 truths that I now embrace. There is more than one way to do life. We can create the life we want, and there is no timeline. Now, I did not believe any of this as I was growing up. I might have believed that there was more than one way to do life, but I absolutely believed that there was a certain way to do life that was far above and beyond any other paths or choices, right? So I was skeptical about that. We can create the life we want. I pretty much believe that with some hesitation. There is no timeline. I absolutely did not believe that. There was absolutely expiration dates and expectations of getting certain things done in a certain order at a certain time. Which of these truths jumps out at you? And any of these, going 1, 2, 3, top to bottom, 1, 2, or 3 that resonate with you, that you really want to believe and want to embrace yourself? 1, 2, or 3. Yes. Yeah. Now, I was skeptical of this for a very long time, and I still have my days. But when I launched my podcast, Blueprint Breakers, and a little over the past year, almost 60 episodes, I've interviewed dozens and dozens of women who validate these truths, who are living very impactful, meaningful, huge lives. They're doing wonderful things. They're really in their flow with their purpose and what they want to do. And they've proven that these things are true. And it's never too late. It's never too early. It's never too late. So through the course of what we're going to talk about today, my goal is to help us fully embrace these 3 truths by the end of the session. As I go through the presentation today, I'm going to celebrate some blueprint breakers that I particularly admire. And you're going to see, I'm going to kind of give it away a little bit in terms of you're going to see which part of the blueprints I didn't follow, whether by choice or by circumstance, because I particularly looked for women who also didn't follow that in some way, shape, or form that I truly admire. And it was really, really empowering and fun and insightful to do so. I'm going to start with Jane Austen. You're more than likely very familiar with Jane, master of romance literature. Books like Emma, Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice. They've been made into multiple movies. Queen of romance, one of the original romance novelists there. And I was surprised to find out that Jane never married. never married herself. And what I found out was she was engaged once for a few hours, and she ultimately decided that she wanted to focus on her work. She wanted to focus on her writing. And here's a particular quote that really jumped out at me from Jane. There are as many forms of love as there are moments in time. Now, this quote speaks to me because she's talking about all the various kinds of love that are out there in the world, not necessarily centering and prioritizing romantic love as the be-all, end-all beyond everything else. And so that particularly spoke to me. Next, we have Diane Keaton. I'm sure familiar to everybody on here. Diane Keaton, Oscar-winning actress. What you may not know, she's also a photographer. She became a mom a little bit later in life. She adopted 2 children, and she had a lot of high-profile relationships throughout her career, but ultimately never chose to get married herself. And I picked out a quote from her. I remember when I was young, I honestly believed in some ridiculous way that you would find someone who would be the person you lived with until you died. I don't think that because I'm not married, it's made my life any less. That old maid myth is garbage. So I was seeking out these women and these role models and these words to help heal a part of me. And it's empowering to see women who are making it happen in spite of not following the traditional societal path. The last person shown on the screen here, Glo Atanmo. Now, she's a thought leader. When she started as a teenager, she started as a blogger, and she was very introverted. She considered herself very nerdy. When she was at school and the other kids were outside playing, she preferred to be inside working on her computer or writing and journaling, etc. In her 20s, she decided she wanted to see the world. She did not want to live the traditional path, so she became a travel blogger, and she has now seen over 90 countries. She's 100% nomadic, and she's built an incredibly successful career as a thought leader, speaker, coach, mentor. And in recent years, she thought that she wasn't really going to be able to find love because of her lifestyle. And she decided to try anyway. And she did. She found the perfect match for her, Stefan here in the picture. And her partner, her fiance, that now travels with her. And the 2 of them, completely nomadic. They teach together. They coach together. They speak together. And she happens to be my coach. One of the quotes of hers that jumped out at me is, every negative thing about me, I turned into a positive opportunity and created the life of my dreams. She absolutely has done that. I'm going to continue to highlight blueprint breakers as we go. But I mentioned these are the women that I specifically admire. I want you to think from your lens. Think from, if there's an area of the blueprint, all those things that came through in the chat, all the expectations that were given to you, there's any aspect of that you did not quite follow, whether it was an intentional decision or it just didn't play out for you. I want you to think about, who are the blueprint breakers in your life that you admire? Whether they could be famous or they could be somebody in your realm, in your circle. I want you to think about it, because as we go, I'm going to give you a chance to honor them and celebrate them as well today. So here is our path to freedom and inclusion. Now, it was my coach, Glo, who encouraged me to create this structure. Basically, what she said to me almost a year ago now, she said, Amy, you've been on a path, a healing journey. You've done a lot of work and you've reinvented your life. You've made a huge pivot. You made it happen. How did you do it? What did you do? And if you can figure that out, if you can figure out step by step how you did that, write it down and share it, because there are other people who would love to hear it and could potentially benefit from it. So this is the path of what I created. I changed it to the acronym of WOMEN in honor of today, WOMEN. So we're going to go through it one at a time, starting with wholeness seeking. Wholeness seeking. This is where we're trying to figure out, how do we feel about how things are in our life right now when we look at all of it. If we're on a journey to be seen, heard, understood, represented, where is it in our lives that we're not feeling that? Is there an area of your life that did not turn out as you had planned, hoped, or dreamed? And does it sometimes make you feel less than? In the chat, just give me a yes or no. Do you have some area of your life that has not turned out as you planned, hoped, or dreamed? Okay. All right. So I'm definitely, all right. So we're all in this. Yes. We're all in this together. Love it. Resounding yeses across the board. I'm glad to hear I'm not alone in that particular aspect. Let me share a little bit about my story. For me, it was the fact that I'm in my 50s and I'm not married and I don't have children. I don't have a family of my own. And that has been something that I spent years and years struggling with. This was not by choice. I had relationships. I tried, let's put it that way. And as I was getting older, with each year, it was getting more and more difficult to reconcile my thoughts and feelings around it. And it was becoming a heavier and heavier weight on my shoulders. And so I handled it in different ways in my 30s, into my 40s. But now I'm in my 50s and it's really, really heavy. And what happened a few years ago is I got hit with the trifecta. I was in midlife, entering my 50s. I was heading towards menopause. So I was getting all the symptoms of that happening. And as you all know, we had a global pandemic all at the same time. So I reached an all-time low, but I'm an achiever and a hard worker. And I mentioned in my bio that I'm a former corporate executive. I was a corporate executive at the time that this happened, all through the pandemic. And I got to tell you, it's deeply ingrained in me, my training and everything that I learned about being a corporate executive. You don't share personal stuff, right? You don't get too deep into the personal stuff if it's on the negative side, or if it's showing any kind of weakness or showing any kind of failure, or how you're feeling about a particular thing. You had to uphold a certain image, strength, power, happiness, connection, etc. So I was doing all of that, and it wasn't real. I'm now breaking those rules all over the place by just putting it all out there. But it's still new to me. It's still new for me to talk about these deeply personal issues to women like you and women all over the world. And so at this time in the pandemic, I was all consumed with my job at the time. I'm sure I was not performing well because I was not in a good mental state, but I was letting my job consume me 24/7, and I was just going through the motions. And it was a stressful job that became a lot more stressful during the pandemic. So I was just focused on that. All aspects of my life were suffering. Socially, I lived alone. And so with pandemic, that magnified that. So disconnected socially, my health was not good. I was gaining weight, my mindset, my mood, everything was at zero. I mean, it was just not good. And I was just trudging through the days. But somehow in me, there was a core in me that knew that I had the ability to break past this. Because as it stood right now, the future looked bleak. Like I couldn't look ahead to the future. Here I am, a woman in my 50s. I had all the stuff about what that means. What does that mean? A woman in your 50s, no partner, no kids. And when I looked ahead at the future, it was bleak and dark and hopeless. And yet there was something in me, whether it was a spiritual connection, my instinct, my gut, whatever it was, that told me, you can figure this out. You can get to the other side of this, but you have a heck of a lot of healing to do to get there. And I knew that in order to do that, I was going to have to take a step back. I was going to have to dial it down. I was going to have to take a break. I ended up taking some pretty drastic moves that I don't necessarily recommend, but a move of some sort could help. So for me, what I did was I left my job and I left where I was living. I got rid of the bulk of my belongings. I sold them or gave them away, and I moved across country to be back near family. I left my dream town of Laguna Beach, California. So I'm seeing you out there, Orange County, my dream place. And I moved to be closer to family and to give myself time to think and to just heal myself. And that's what I did. I took some time, and I took about 3 months to just focus on what is it that I want to do, and trying to peel back what was going on for me and why was I feeling the way that I was feeling, and what was it going to take to get to that next level. And so I spent 3 months doing that. At the end of the 3 months, I was clear that I wanted to be close to family and people that I loved. I wanted to see the world again and travel, and I wanted to help other women feel seen, heard, and understood. That was most important to me. And that's when I started my podcast and a lot of other things. But long story short, fast forwarding, I am now more centered, more focused, more fulfilled, happier, more in touch with who I am than I've ever been in my entire adult life. And it took some work to get there. Next step is obstruction exploration. So this was part of the work that I needed to do, is why was I feeling the way that I was feeling? Why was I letting the fact that I had these areas of my life that had not been fulfilled, why was I letting that weigh on me to such an extent? And why was it normal for me to feel that way? It makes sense that because I was programmed from a very young age that I had to fulfill these things in order to be a full, complete, happy, fulfilled woman, it was so deeply ingrained in me. It's understandable that I was feeling less than when I wasn't able to do it. I have this one experience back when I was in my late 30s, early 40s. It was a conversation I had with my therapist at the time. And that was when I was in the thick of it. I was in the thick of my grief over not becoming a mom. And I was trying to work through that. And the therapist asked me, she said, how much of your grief belongs to you and how much of it belongs to others? And I wasn't ready to hear that. I was really taken aback by the question. Because I was like, wait, what do you mean? Of course, this is all mine. This is mine. This is hard. This hurts. Do you not understand how much this hurts? I was feeling shame. I was feeling anxiety, fear, sadness. It was all mine. How could it possibly be anybody else's? I mean, I was not ready to hear the question. I certainly was not ready to answer the question. Over the years, it was years later, as I was contemplating on that question again, without defensiveness, I started to understand what she meant. I understood that she meant, like, if I looked at my grief on a pie chart, this is how she explained it. If my grief is on a pie chart, there was one slice of my grief that belonged to me. It was fully mine and part of my sadness and my loss over my child that I would not have. One piece. The rest was the external world. The rest was family, society, the media, Hollywood, you name it. All the rest was because of everybody else's and how I was being programmed. So as you're thinking about your obstruction, like what's getting in your way to getting to where you want to be, first have some compassion for yourself. It makes sense that you would feel this way. And then think about whether it's really your desire. Do you really want that thing? And is that really it? Or is it part of trying to fulfill somebody's expectations, which is part of how we're programmed too. We always need to fulfill others' expectations, right? So asking yourself that as you're exploring your own obstructions. And this came up for me again in the past year or so. I went to see the movie, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, that was made from Judy Blume's book. Who here is a Judy Blume fan? Yes, several hands, lots of Judy. Yes. So here's what happened. So I loved that book. I read the book as a pre-adolescent, as most of us, many of us did. For those of you who may not be familiar with the book, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's about a young adolescent girl named Margaret who's exploring her relationship with God. She's also facing having her first period and what that's like, and boys, what that's all about, getting boys to like her and that kind of thing. And I loved it when I was a kid because it spoke to me about what my world was at that time, right? So going back to see the movie, I was so excited to see the movie. And then I got triggered all over the place when I saw it, probably because of the work I've been trying to do. But I found that when I saw the messages displayed right there on the screen in front of me, I just felt myself getting triggered. And it was because there was pressure around being in a hurry to have your first period because you're comparing yourself to your friends. So wanting to get that level of achievement as a young girl, wanting to get the attention of young boys for that validation. There was this one scene where they were doing that exercise, we must increase our bust, which I did as a little girl too. I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was great. But watching it through my current lens, I was just triggered. So I said, I liked the movie, but I was still triggered all over the place from it. So it makes sense that I would have had the reaction that I've had over the years to the fact that I did not do what I was supposed to do as a woman. So I want you to think about that for yourself. Is it something that you truly desire, or is it part of how you've been programmed and part of what society's telling you to do? Once I was able to sort of peel back the obstruction and what was getting in the way and a little bit of the vision, I could then move on to manifestation, which is my favorite step. Now, manifesting, I'm a very analytical person. So when we start talking about this type of thing, it's a little bit woo-woo, and I have a tendency to, step back a little bit. But it also can be the most fun. It's important to be able to create a crystal clear vision of what you'd like your life to look like, where you want to go, how you want it to feel, look, sound like, what the experience is like, and really integrating that vision into your heart and soul. And I did it through a vision board. I'm curious in the chat, let me know if you've ever done a vision board, whether it's a paper one that went on the wall or a digital one. Do we have any vision boarders in the room? Lots of vision boarders. Good. So yes, thank you, Leandra. Yes, I love it. Amy, yes. Kim, awesome. So lots of vision boards out there. The reason that a vision board works well is it's just like if you're going to set out and go sailing, you could have a perfect, beautiful day, the nice, strong winds, the sails are set perfectly. But if you don't have that North Star, if you don't know that direction of where you're going, you're just gonna float and wander and go wherever the winds take you. And the more you can clarify your vision and have fun with it, the more clear you are, the more you can believe it and integrate it into who you are, where you want to be, etc. Now, just doing a vision board is not enough. You really need to take the time to make it a part of your life and to bring it to life. These up here on the screen are just some examples of how you can do that. Like my vision board is the home screen on my cell phone. And I also have it in a little frame so that I can see it every day. But there's a lot of different ways that you can integrate it into your heart and soul. You could use it as a journaling exercise. Look at the pictures and ask, why did I choose this image? Where am I? And how does it feel? Who's with me? What does it look like? What am I experiencing? Journaling each image on the vision board. You can, if you're a meditator, you can use it and look at your vision board before you begin your meditation to sort of connect with it. So the important thing is to get it into your heart, soul, and make it part of your current reality. And when you talk about your vision, you're doing it in the present tense. So if you've got a picture of a healthy girl working out on your vision board, you're not going to describe it as, I'm going to get healthy. You describe it as, I am healthy. I am healthy. I am strong. I am active on a regular basis. So you're stating your vision in the present tense. Let me know who can tell me, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to state your vision in the present tense as if it's already happening? Yes, Nancy, we are what we think. Brain chemistry, yes. Yes, there's the neuroplasticity in your brain, Olivia. Absolutely. And it pushes you to take more action. That's right, Amy. And it helps to convince you that it'll happen, Sandra. Yes, absolutely, 100%. So that's the manifestation step, which is one of the most fun steps on the path. I'm going to take another break to celebrate a few blueprint breakers. Hopefully you've started to think about some blueprint breakers in your life. I'd like between now and the end of the session to start typing in who are the blueprint breakers in your life that you'd like to honor. Who are the women who have made an impact, who you admire, who are living their best lives that you would like to honor on today's International Women's Day. Go ahead and write them in the chat to share with each other. So a couple of these people on the screen you may know, and a couple of them you may not. We'll start with the most famous one on here is Condoleezza Rice. So Condoleezza, former Secretary of State, very successful political career, incredibly intelligent woman. When I was doing my research on her, I found an interview that she did with Ladies' Home Journal many years ago, and they asked her, do you think you will still feel like you had a fulfilled life if you do not have children? They asked her this in the interview. Her response was, yeah, I will. I won't have kids, but I may still get married. But I would have lived a fulfilled life if I had gotten married and had kids too. But I'm very religious, and I, at some very deep level, believe that things are going to work out as they're supposed to. The key, take note of this, the key is to be open to that and to appreciate the life you've been given. Beautiful, beautiful, Condoleezza. Next up is Lynn Heidi. She is a personal friend of mine and a colleague. She grew up in the same hometown as I did. She was given the same lifestyle blueprint. And when she met and married her husband, they decided together not to have children. And in spite of the pressures around her and in spite of how people constantly, they made assumptions. They made assumptions that she was too focused on her work, too career-driven, too selfish, all kinds of misperceptions. But she unapologetically embraced her childless by choice life. And I interviewed her for my podcast, and one of the things that she said that jumped out at me, regardless of why someone is childless, unless you really know them, don't think you get to ask. At a baby shower, don't ask them, are you next? Don't assume that everyone here is on that path or has the opportunity to be on that path. Amen to Lynn. And then we have Kim Hale. I'm not sure if any of you are TikTokers or have been on TikTok. Kim started out, she was pursuing a career in dance and acting. And then in her midlife point, she started to have some health challenges, had a cancer diagnosis. She stopped dancing. And then she got to the point where she was too old for the dance industry. Fast forward to 2020, she was at that time 52 years old, too old. Here we are in a global pandemic, and she decided she needed to get healthy. She needed to lose weight. She started to do dances on TikTok, really good dances. And she started to let her hair grow in gray, stopped coloring it because she couldn't go get her hair colored. And her videos went viral, took off. And what's happened as a result is she is now a professional dancer. She's now 56 years old, dancing professionally. She's been in commercials, dancing on commercials. She's had a billboard in Times Square, and she's pursuing a Broadway career as well. So thank you, Kim, for your inspiration. All right, let's wrap up our path here. Our last 2 steps of our path to freedom and inclusion. Executable plan. So this is where you figure out how are you going to get to where you are now to where you want to be. So we've gone into the wholeness seeking, obstruction exploration, manifestation. So we have a clear idea of what we want. Now we need to figure out how to get there, right? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the part of the blueprint that you didn't do. With my story, with my example, yes, it was the fact that I did not have a partner and did not have kids that was weighing me down and causing me grief and sadness. And through my healing and through my reprogramming and through my reframing, I determined that that wasn't that part of my life I needed to make a plan for. I didn't need to keep trying at that. I had other areas of my life that I wanted to work on. I wanted to work on purpose. I wanted to work on mindset. I wanted to work on health. There was other things that were going to make me excited and make me feel fulfilled. So it's about creating an executable plan. The key word in this is executable, doable. So we're looking at coming up with things that can be done to get you from here to there. And chances are you absolutely know what you need to do. You know the steps that it'll take to get you from here to there. And if you don't, you know somebody that knows. So ask yourself, what do you need to learn? Are there skills you need to add? Is there help that you need? Is there support that you need? Think about that. What do you need to get from here to there? Oh, I'm loving that I'm seeing some of these blueprint breakers in the chat. RBG, your previous manager, your 80-year-old neighbor. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Keep up coming. So this is the executable plan. I'm sure as we've been talking, there's been an area of your life or a particular thing or a particular goal that you've been thinking about as I've been asking these questions. What's one step, one doable step that you can take to move you in that direction? Then the last step, navigate to fruition. This is where the rubber makes the road. This is where you're making it happen. So you've got your plan, you know where you want to go. What do you need to do to get there? How are you going to make this time any different than the last time? Accountability, first of all. Is accountability to yourself enough, or do you need external accountability? Is there somebody else that you need to be accountable to, whether it's a friend, family member, a coach, a mentor? Is there somebody do you need that external accountability? Personally, I do. I need to have outside accountability. Reassessment. When you're striving towards a goal, if you're just doing it blindly and you're not reassessing, at some point, that goal may no longer be important to you and you're just blindly going through it. I definitely had several things in my life that I was blindly working really hard to get towards. And then when I stopped to think about it, I didn't even really want it anymore. So reassessing, doing the inner work, personal development, and thought work. So I've been doing workshops around this topic for about 6 months now with lots of different groups of women. And the number one answer that I'm getting from women when I ask them, what is standing in your way of getting to where you want to be? Number one answer has been my own thoughts, my lack of self-confidence, my lack of self-worth, the negative monologue that's going on in my head. So absolutely working on those thoughts. I'm reading the book Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. Do I have anyone that's in the house who knows Jamie? She just released her most recent book called Worthy. And she had some very interesting statistics that she highlighted in the book. 80% of women say that they do not feel like they are enough. 80%. 75% of women say that they have suffered from imposter syndrome at one time or another. 75%. So even when they are accomplishing, even when they're doing amazing things, 75% of them are still doubting themselves over it. And then a whopping 91% of women do not love their bodies. I found the statistics Not surprising, but shocking in another sort of way. So definitely something that we need to work on is what's going on in our thoughts and how we think about ourselves. Another tip, another secret here, navigating to fruition. This is where the sweetness is. This is where the joy is. This is where the fulfillment is navigating the journey on your way, not the accomplishment of the end goal. I know you've all heard it. It's not it's the journey, not the destination. This is absolutely it. As you are working on this and moving towards it, this is the piece that's going to give you that fulfillment and give you that joy in your life. So these are the 5 steps to freedom and inclusion. I'm going to wrap up with the last of my particular blueprint breakers, and I want to hear more of yours. Who else do you want to honor in the chat today that you want to celebrate? These I picked because of the there is no timeline truth that I took a long time for me to accept, and now I have fully embraced it. Gladys Burrell, she completed the Honolulu Marathon at 92 years old. She has the world record for the oldest female to complete a marathon. I can't even. Betty White, who we all know and love, who we lost a few years ago. I never realized she joined the cast of the Mary Tyler Moore Show when she was already too old for television. She was 51 years old. She went on to have a whole half century of her career after that. Betty White. Suzanne Collins, she was 46 years old when the first of her trilogy, Hunger Games, hit the shelves and skyrocketed her to success. So it was not too late for her. And Toni Morrison, Nobel and Pulitzer Prize winner, she published her first novel at 40 that was called The Bluest Eye. So just a few examples of it's never too late. There is no timeline. This is how we come full circle to our 3 truths. There's more than one way to do life. No one is better or worse than the others. Multiple ways to get there, multiple ways to be fulfilled and happy. We can create the life we want, and there is no timeline. Now, how does that even help us with inclusion? Well, if we can start with ourselves, if we can start to feel accepting of ourselves and understanding, feeling seen, heard, understood, understanding ourselves, fully embracing ourselves, we are then able to do the same for our peers and look at them no matter what their life situation is, no matter what's happened to them or for them or by them, choice or not choice, we can fully embrace them. Together, we can impact the next generation and the little girls that are coming up behind us and making sure that they understand they have multiple options ahead and none of them are better or worse than the others. And then as a result, it will expand to the world as we help women to feel seen, heard, understood, and represented regardless. Before I ask my last question, I do want to offer to you a free gift. If anything that I've shared with you resonates and you're thinking, well, I do have some things I want to think about. I want to take a look at that. I want to reassess that. I might want to expand or pivot. I have a free gift bundle for you. My ebook is actually an interactive workbook that will take you through the steps of everything that I just went through today, but it's like workbook format, a little bit of journaling in there with an accompanying video workshop. So if you go to blueprintbreakers.com, you'll be able to access the gift there, blueprintbreakers.com. And I invite you to check out my podcast as well. As we close, I want you to reflect on the last almost hour that we've spent together. We've talked about the path to freedom. We've talked about the 3 truths. And I'd like you to think about, what do you want to make sure that you remember from our time today when you wake up tomorrow? What resonated with you the most? What do you want to hold on to? What do you want to make sure that you remember when you wake up tomorrow? And put that in the chat. You can create the life you want. There is no timeline. Believe that I'm enough. There's more than one way to do life. Let go of society's expectations. Create the life we want. Absolutely. All right. Well, I can see it for you. I can see it for all of us. Oh, I love that, Courtney. Whose guilt or disappointment is it? Is it yours or someone else's? Think about that. I want to wish you a wonderful Friday, a wonderful International Women's Day. We were talking about it just before the call. It's not just Women's Day, it's Women's Week, month, year, all the time, right? So thank you very much for your time together.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Blueprint Breakers podcast, Rewriting the Rules of Belonging. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this episode with your friends. And remember to take advantage of my free gift, my ebook, Heal and Restore, the 7-Step Guide to Joy. This will be available for a very limited time at blueprintbreakers.com. Have a great week. Keep on breaking those blueprints and writing your own.